Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and the CBDCs are indeed here, and they're being rolled out at a rapid scale right now, my friend. SpaceX will invest $2 billion in Elon Musk's XAI startup as he introduces X money attached to Visa. And of course, simultaneously, the European Central Bank is releasing their CBDC by October. We have the Genius Act in the United States. We have the Digital IDs in Europe. We have the UK doing the exact same thing as they bring in what they call progressive digital IDs as the pound goes, quote unquote, woke. We're seeing it in Australia. We're seeing it everywhere right now. And we need to break this down for people because this is happening simultaneously in so many different ways. And of course, every single person out there listening or watching right now is at risk of falling prey to this. If you just depend on the banking system, if you depend on the grocery stores, if you depend on the systems that they could easily shut down under the guise of convenience, they come in with a security protocol to enslave you to a global technocratic order with digital IDs, CBDCs, and of course, with that, social credit and food rations. So I'm going to get into this and more today, my friends. Before I do, I urge people to check that link in the description, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact same link. This is about having a real world solution to avoid the CBDCs and buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. Hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment with Mark Gonzalez, and you'll get a free consultation and a complimentary investors package. Mark is a good friend of ours. He's very awake. We do many videos with him. I urge you to check that out and let him know in the comments of the form when you sign up that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Also, get stocked up on food so you aren't dependent on their food later. Go and check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable food that's non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, WAM, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. This is how you keep yourself and your family safe. Do not be irresponsible. Do not sit on your hands. Do not wait to see what happens. This is the time to get stocked up, and it's not about fear. It's about having peace of mind and knowing that you don't have to succumb to their system later. They accept gold and silver for payment over at Heaven's Harvest, by the way, and of course, you could pay a little bit now and a little bit later. You don't have to pay all at once, but this is an investment in your survival. So I urge you to go and check that out. Let's get into this. So make sure to hit subscribe and hit like and all that. This is from Just the News. It says SpaceX will invest $2 billion in Elon Musk's XAI startup. Now, I've done many videos on the AI system. I just recently did a video called The Robot Takeover is Here, which I urge people to check out. We're not going to do a deep dive into AI today because I've done so many videos on this issue. But I do want to correlate this because XAI was just sold or was just bought up by... Well, actually, they just bought X, I should say. I don't want to confuse the terms here because X was sold by Elon Musk to XAI for $33 billion, a very important number to remember there. And simultaneously, as XAI buys up X, X is unrolling their digital ID system and social credit. And if you say things that are quote unquote negative, according to Musk, then you will then not be able to be seen, which is the basis of a social credit system in the making, which Elon Musk says he's following in and finishing the work of his grandfather, following in his footsteps, Joshua Haldeman, who created the Technate Party to create a global technocratic government. Now, technocracy goes back to the 1910s, specifically when the Rockefellers shook hands with Marxists. And in World War II, well, around the New Deal, and into World War II, it was propped up greatly, then leading to the rise of China in 1948, the current communist government, and the propping up of China by Kissinger and the Trilateral Commission in the 1970s to create the idea of a technocratic superstate, the guinea pig state, if you will. And we've seen how that has exactly happened. And of course, they wanted to create this guinea pig state so that they can see what happens there and then they can enforce it in other places while pretending that the West is falling in favor of the East, when really it was a combined effort to shift from one world government into another world government. And that is exactly what I believe we are witnessing today. Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum calls China the blueprint for the Great Reset, the role model, as he says. So with that, it means complete dependence on a technocracy. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, my friends, and that's exactly how they're going to unroll this. They create a crisis, they cause a food panic, a supply chain panic, then they come in with their solution. And SpaceX investing this $2 billion in Elon Musk's XAI startup is also involved in this everything company of X, which means the Internet of Things will be this social media where you give all your information to this system that is also, by the way, creating satellites and cell phone networks for Israel. SpaceX launches a $200 million smartphone in space for Israel at 1:04 a.m. at SpaceX Falcon 9 launch. Israel's D-Roar one satellite from Cape Canaveral. Israel's foreign ministry says this $200 million smartphone in space will power Israel's strategic and civilian communication for 15 years. Israel Aerospace Industries called it the most advanced communication satellite ever built in Israel and a historic leap. Meanwhile, the booster nailed its landing on the drone ship like it was nothing. Classic SpaceX, says Mario Nawfal. So, okay. We have this system that's going to be connected to social media at the same time as AI, at the same time as a digital ID and a monetary system. We'll get into X money later on in the video. But I want to point out that this is happening simultaneously and by design at the same time as we have the European Central Bank announcing their plan to launch their CBDC by October 2025. At the latest, they say, Christine Lagarde has pushed this forward. This will be the digital euro. And there will be a point where it's not voluntary. You won't have any way around it eventually. And it just happens as they do this, from 2026, EU citizens will have to have a European digital identity and a digital wallet. So that is coming out in 2026. So that is no coincidence that that's happening at the same time as the CBDC. And at the same time is that the European Union is banning the trading of privacy coins from 2027. So first of all, this is what privacy coins are for. This is why I'm a supporter of Epic Cash and Monero and these things. We have donation links for that in the description. Shameless plug, but in our Cointree link. But they were built for this. You cannot ban privacy coins, but it also just speaks very openly about where they're heading with this system when they openly say they are planning to ban privacy coins from 2027. It's them saying, hey, we don't want you to have any access to anything that allows you to offset the surveillance system that's being built around you. And at the same time, the EU is planning to ban private messaging, and that it could have a global impact and how it'll affect different countries around the world. They have this thing called Protect EU, where they want to completely ban your ability to have encrypted private messaging. And this is because they want to see everything you do under the guise of, hey, we're trying to stop terrorism. Hey, and they'll need the right crisis, maybe a false flag or something. Hey, we're trying to stop all this stuff so that we could better protect you. It's always about national security or protection or security or safety or money and giving money to the poor that they made poor in the first place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The biggest risk to your security and your safety at this point is the state. And they are just giving you the most Orwellian excuses for bringing in this obvious surveillance network, which just 10, 15 years ago would have been called absolutely insane, but almost no one's talking about this. And by the way, this is after years of facial recognition surveillance on the street, again, based on that Chinese model, which again, China had that facial recognition system based in SMS messages, where you will get a fine to your phone if you jaywalk and if cameras catch you on the street. This has been the overall transhumanistic approach at destroying the basis of humanity as it stands. Independence, my friends. Meanwhile, Europe is preparing for war economy mode, stockpiling minerals, food, and nuclear fuel amid rising threats. What do they know that you don't? What do the elites know that you don't, as they're stockpiling massive amounts of food and stuff? Again, we have Heaven's Harvest and we have Wham Beef in the description of our video. Again, shameless plug. But again, this is a real thing that's happening right now. And it's something that we shouldn't be ignoring and just waiting to see what happens and sitting on our hands and saying, oh, maybe the government is going to fix the problems of the government. They never will. It'll always go in this direction to creating a crisis to put you in a position of complete dependence so that they can come in and control you. Meanwhile, Downing Street exploring options for progressive UK digital IDs. So here we have the United Kingdom, and it's this thing called BritCard, and they want you to have this system, which, by the way, they're already building carbon credits into to ration your food. We talked about how Professor Suzanne Michie, a couple of years ago, we talked about how she was brought in by the UK government to bring in propaganda and push the public towards a digital ID system with carbon credits on their bank accounts. And with the United Nations Pact for the Future, signed by 192 countries, 193 countries recently in September, that Pact for the Future says that if you have a bank account and you say something negative about the government, then your bank account could be shut down. You could be forced into food rations with digital IDs and social credit. That was already passed, most likely by your country, unless you live in like Trinidad and Tobago. I think they even passed it. Okay, Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know. The point is, almost everyone in the world has signed on to this. So unless you're watching from like Antarctica, which probably has your own rules anyway, then you're going to be succumbing to this. A quick point. I don't want people to be freaked out by this on my shirt. This is from a comedy show by Sam Tripoli. It says the Unabomber was right. It was a thing on a play on his manifesto, which talked about technocracy, which is what we're talking about today in this rollout. So it's kind of interesting segue there. But I just wanted to, because people are going to see the eye on the pyramid and think, oh, well, if you're watching anyway, you're going to go, oh, why does he have an eye in a pyramid on his shirt? It's a joke shirt. Anyway, it's from Sam Tripoli. But so we have this digital ID thing. We have Professor Suzanne Michie pushing this carbon credit system after she pushed the COVID stuff. And then we have this from thepapers.com, MasterCard certified to provide digital ID services in the UK. Now, this is important in a moment, and I'll get to that in a moment. Obviously, it connects the CBDC system, but I want to get to something regarding Elon Musk soon, which will tie that together. But this is happening as a British pound may go woke. The planned redesign reportedly seeks to replace historical figures with diversity themes. And this is the same time as they're bringing in diverse conscription in places like Denmark and Germany. I mean, it's so ridiculous. CNN writes, the real ID deadline is nearly here. Here's what to know. So this is a big part of that digital ID in the US, and they are creating it. They are manufacturing it. Trump is one of the number one leaders in the world pushing AI. He put $500 billion into it on day 2 of his administration, including into mRNA cancer vaccines. He also brought in this massive AI governance rule with the Saudis, as he brought Elon Musk, Sam Altman of OpenAI. He brought, of course, Alex Karp, of the CEO of Palantir, Peter Thiel, and of course, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, over to meet the Saudi crown prince and the leader of Qatar, and Jolani, the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria that Israel installed, in order to create a new governance system of AI. And now in the big, beautiful bill, we'll get into that in a moment, it's chock full of AI technocratic rule. But of course, with the Genius Act and the Stable Act being passed, now you have a digital ID. They say, oh, well, that's a cryptocurrency. It's like Tether, it's USDC, it's stuff like that. It's a stable coin. Yeah, but you have KYC, it's going through the bank. Jerome Powell's pushing this, saying all banks can now put cryptocurrencies on it. I'm a big fan of decentralized cryptocurrencies. I'm not a fan of going exactly the opposite way of the purpose of cryptocurrencies, which is to be outside of the banking system. They're putting it all within the banking system, and people trust it. It's just a perpetual circle of control to keep people controlled by that same system people were trying to escape from. And crypto's going crazy right now, by the way. So the real ID system is that digital ID system that they're bringing in. We have similar things coming into play in Canada and in Mexico right now, and across the board. And this is where I wanted to bring in the MasterCard thing, because Visa and Elon Musk are partnering for X money. Now, Musk left the Trump administration acting like, oh, they got in this big fight, but then like that day says he's launching X money. They've, of course, registered X as a bank, or they're registering X as a bank. They have a digital ID system on there. They have a social credit system on there. They're now attached to SpaceX, which they're also working with the Israeli government and Israeli intelligence, and Palantir, which is creating a database on all Americans. And they are partnering with Visa. And this is as MasterCard is certified to provide digital ID services in the UK. And I consider MasterCard and Visa the exact same thing. There's no difference between them. They're the exact same thing. They're the same system. They were a litmus and an introduction to technocracy that we all saw many, many years ago, many decades ago. And it's just a part of that digital ID wallet. So they are working together. X users will be able to pay, will be able to transfer funds and pay each other through this system. Meanwhile, X Money and Episode 6, a company, are coming together to power global crypto and fiat payments infrastructure. It's an on and off ramp ecosystem, creating a digital wallet and identity. So this is exactly what I'm warning about. And in every way, shape, and form, Elon Musk is the Trojan horse. Self-driving cars, robots in your home that do everything for you while they surveil you. I mean, under the guise of being anti-establishment, give me a break. And he says AI will destroy humanity. These are his own words, and that they'll take all jobs. Meanwhile, he's employing AI at his warehouses and employing AI robots in many cases, and then saying, "Don't worry, if your job is taken away, you can have UBI, Universal Basic Income." And he's creating the AI that's causing all this problem in the first place. He's the number one developer of it. So the epitome of a Trojan horse. And also he says he wants carbon taxes and stuff like that, as he launches the America Party with these people who are heavily involved in the intelligence community and unrolling technocracy worldwide and calling for a global government. So again, this is exactly what we've been warning of. And Circle is now applying for U.S. Trust Bank charter to manage its USDC reserves. Again, this is a part of that CBDC system. It might be a basket of currencies, who knows? But we know that these things like Circle, which is a stablecoin issuer, is going to be heavily likely involved in this technocratic system under the guise of, oh, well, it's not a digital dollar, trust us, it's just this, as everyone's on Real ID and regulated through the stablecoins at local banks and connected to that global banking cabal that is creating that future social credit system around you, and will eventually ban you from having certain foods, will ration foods to you, and likely feed you poison and tell you, enjoy your soil and green, slave. As long as you do as we say, we will give you your, pittance. And it'll be like a Logan's Run type scenario. AI-powered digital workers deployed at major bank to work alongside humans. This is the next level, they say. Again, another example of this, as the United States government and the federal government seizes control of AI regulations from the Congress and says that it'll be a 10-year moratorium, that Congress cannot regulate it, and it'll be completely controlled by the federal government. So this is all happening at the same time. Trump's big, beautiful bill just passed by Senate will permanently entrench the technocratic state, says technocracy.news, who this is a site that I think Patrick Wood created, our friend. I have his book, of course, Technocracy, or Trilaterals Over Washington, volumes 1 and 2, which he did with Anthony Sutton many years ago. Highly recommend it. Goes into a lot of this stuff on how this was propped up for many, many decades before us to bring in this order. And again, and that's including smart meters. It could go on and on and on and on. But again, this big, beautiful bill includes AI control over nuclear weapons and nuclear arsenals, and of course, nuclear facilities. It also includes a total push for drones, the Iron Dome of the United States, utilizing AI technology from Palantir, which Palantir is creating that database on Americans and is using those AI drones to indiscriminately bomb children in Palestine by the hand of Israel. And speaking of that, Israel is using facial recognition to determine who gets food rations and who doesn't in Palestine. That's coming to a place near you soon, so trust it to be used in that food ration system, which will no doubt happen. Again, stock up on food, my friends. But again, I want to continue on here because this big, beautiful bill is just part of this massive agenda. and it's being unrolled everywhere. Australia's Digital ID Act and a new trusted exchange, an update and a deep dive, it says over at Ashurst. Now, I'm not going to go into this whole article or anything. I wanted to utilize a headline to make a point here. They're rolling out their digital ID in Australia. They're rolling out a digital wallet, and they're rolling out CBDCs, and they're one of the first to do it. Of course, we talked about them demonetizing the currency back in 2014, 2015 on our channel, and we said that they would utilize this to move into the Chinese system, as they were using China as that role model as well. And the prime minister at the time was going and visiting China regularly to work on this idea. Now, this is at the same time of 2014 to 2016 when we saw what was happening in Venezuela. We saw what was happening in, Zimbabwe with hyperinflation. And of course, we saw them rolling out. Now we see this big time in Sierra Leone, the digital ID that Bill Gates put in, which includes if you want to drive your car, if you want to have a bank account, if you want to have a job, if you want to be a citizen in general, if you want food, you need a digital ID. And in Kenya, the Ojiek people, the tribe, have been in many cases imprisoned or wiped out or starved because they don't have a good carbon credit score. So they're not allowed food. And then in India in the 2010s, we saw a push for the demonetization of the rupee, while Modi brought in this idea of free bank accounts for the homeless, which was then used to get people on the grid, on the record, and they give them a tiny bit of money. And the idea was, India is one of the most gold-loving places in the world. It's part of their culture, gold. And they were trying to take away the gold from the people. It didn't work, but nonetheless, they were able to take a few steps towards technocracy, take a couple steps back. But it's like they take away 10 freedoms, they give you 6 back, and you think that you're free. This is what they do. So they're normalizing that practice, just like they did between 2020 and 2022. Where they utilize that as a litmus test for technocracy, which the World Economic Forum says themselves they did. They said it was a litmus test for compliance. So we know which direction they're going in there. So Australia was one of the first, and Australia is being looked at as potentially the idea for the global currency system as far as the CBDC goes. Though I believe that it'll be heavily dependent on BRICS, as BRICS outperforms G7 big time right now. And it's again all manufactured. It's a manufactured shift towards the Chinese order, the Russian order, the west to the east. It was always planned that way. The U.S. and Canada and Britain and the European Union, and of course Australia and New Zealand, they've all been part of creating this problem to come in with the solution of, hey, look, it looks natural, but they pull out the rug and there is a CBDC and it will be run by the East. That's why all these deals are being made over there right now. It's going to get crazier. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And they are bringing in the cashless society at a rate we've never seen before, as they warn us. Oh, the Department of Energy warns of 100x increase in blackout risk by 2030 on the same day as Trump energy security executive order. And of course, they are also saying the same thing as, oh, well, Iran will do cyber attacks on the U.S. Total false flag. The idea is then they can come in with their solution. They sever the underwater cables in war. They lose a bunch of farms due to taxes, regulations, and of course, just the elimination of farms where they're paying people to get rid of farms in places like the Netherlands, where they want to get rid of 50% of farms in the second top agricultural exporter country in the world, which is insanity. And of course, they are doing this in so many other places around the world and bring in the climate policies at the same time as bringing in biometrics and bringing in war and bringing in civil unrest and bring in this idea of surveillance and we'll keep you safe from surveillance from other countries by surveilling you ourselves. Destroys the supply chain, destroy the grid, and destroy the internet as it stands to create this new solution, this new replacement system, which is total technocratic control, which is the Great Reset. And both sides of the political paradigm are bringing this in. I was approached by Jon Stewart's staff at the Daily Show a couple months ago to be on the show. It didn't end up working out, but I did the initial interview phone call with them, and I'm pretty sure I shocked the intern that was talking to me or the producer that was talking to me for the pre-interview, because I think they were expecting me to say, oh, well, but Trump is going to fix this, and so they could make fun of me on the show. But I said both sides are doing this, and it's pretty clear. They're utilizing biometrics with mass migration, which they created in the first place. They brought them in there in the first place. They offered welfare after destroying their countries in the first place. And then they say, oh, well, we need to get you out, and we're going to create this big digital ID system where we know where you are, who you are, where you're from, what you say, what you do. And of course, they're using that as an excuse. And of course, they're doing the same thing with the climate lobby. So they are they're crashing one system on purpose and creating a new system to take over the old system, which will control you more under the guise of a solution and protecting you and keeping you safe and being the change you wish to see. And I believe that it's incredibly dangerous going forward, and we are walking dead set into it. They want to destroy the grid. They want war. They'll destroy the underwater cables, force you to use SpaceX, or Starlink rather. And Starlink will be attached through SpaceX, through X money, through XAI, through Visa, through MasterCard, through Palantir, through the digital ID system that they are creating all as one big bubble. Same with the UK and their digital wallet and their digital ID and their CBDC. Same with the EU, which openly says by October at the latest are releasing their CBDC. And by the way, 196 countries worldwide say they're launching a CBDC. Russia is doing it. Russia just launched a digital ID system that is mandated that everyone needs to have. So again, every country is involved in this. And we have to understand it's not about escaping to another country. It's about escaping the system from not being dependent on that system, not being dependent on the grocery store, not being dependent on the bank, not being dependent on the healthcare system, not being dependent on any of this stuff, the grid, the water, etc. And that comes down to every person's responsibility. There's no politician that's going to save you from this ever. And if you keep waiting, you will succumb to this problem, and you'll be on the inside looking out, inescapable, and rather than on the outside looking in, having the things you need to sustain yourself. It'll be like a Logan's Run domed off society where everyone is tracked and traced everywhere, which was really the basis of Logan's Run, the movie and the book, where you are in this domed off place or tracked and traced everywhere. They decide what food you eat. They give you the rations. And as long as you are compliant with them, it's fine. But then they kill you, I think, at age 25 or 30. I forget the age. And they don't let you escape no matter what you want to do. It's all one big show. They have some bread and circuses event where you fight to the death in order to win your ability to live in another part of the land for the rest of your life without having to be sacrificed for the greater good of the greater number under this net zero situation that they create in Logan's Run. It was really before its time, the idea of this, and they're following that blueprint almost perfectly right now. So again, the basis of humanity is individualism and self-responsibility, which means that the solution is to be more individualistic and be more self-aware and conscious, and of course responsible. The basis of freedom and humanity, both, it's synonymous. And they don't want you to do that, because the war isn't between nations, religions, races, or any of that. The war is on humanity, and it's basically good versus evil that we're dealing with right now. So to evade this system designed to control you and control the internet access and control the money and control the food and control the grid and control your behavior, which is the ultimate form of censorship, by the way, the solution is at your fingertips. First, get out of that CBDC system. Don't be dependent on the bank. Have something outside of that you could pay, which will later on, the free market will be the black market. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ use that exact link. It's in the description. Don't use any other link except for exactly that, with the slashes and the dashes and everything. It's in the description. There you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. And you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Also, stock up on food. The obvious thing here is to do this. Of course, you don't have to worry about being dependent as much on them if you have this. Heavensharvest.com for long-term storable food that's non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, WAM, and you will get 5% off, as well as free shipping on these items in the United States. And by the way, I want to point out, people say, oh, well, you're shilling, all this kind of stuff. I was talking about this stuff years before I ever made a cent off of it. And I made maybe a total of $100 last month off of all this stuff. I've been offered $1 million contracts to work with networks, and I've turned them down because I believe in telling the truth and I want to give solutions. So before I'm told that I'm a shill, I'm bankrupt, I have no money, and I'm doing this even though it doesn't make me money, because I believe in helping humanity learn to be independent, which is a basis of everything that I've been trying to talk about for 19 years now. So we have heavensharvest.com, code WAM, WAM, and you can get 1 bucket, 3 buckets. I urge people to get as many as possible to prolong their ability to keep themselves and their family safe later on down the road. Also, check out Wild Pastures for 20% off for life plus $15 off your first box when you use our link on 100% grass-fed and finished beef, pasture-raised pork, pasture-raised chicken, and wild-caught seafood. No mRNA, no GMOs, hormones, antibiotics, steroids, feedlots, pesticides, or chemicals of any kind, all raised on regenerative family farms in 48 U.S. states, delivered to your house, temperature-controlled and customizable as you see fit. This is a very important thing because it saves your local farmers. It saves yourself money and it saves your health also from what may be on those grocery store shelves. Also, check out whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life freeze dried steak, 12 servings per bag. Again, there's freeze dried chicken and ground beef as well. And you could use code WAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order, guaranteed. No mRNA, no lab grown meat, all American beef that's 100% natural. I highly recommend people go and do that. Again, that's whambeef.com, code WAMBEEF, all one word. And we have a bunch of options for health as well that we can't mention if we post this on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe on Rumble and BitChute instead. That's where to go. But nonetheless, we have health options we can't mention. So go and check those links on Rumble and BitChute and check out our videos that we can't post on YouTube, which is, I think, half of them at least. And anyway, we have ways that you can help support us if you want. We have gogetfunding.com, Patreon, Subscribestar. Anything helps to keep us alive. We are bankrupt. We've lost 90% of our money since January, but we will continue to tell the truth despite them trying to push us onto a park bench. We will continue working hard to tell the truth, as always, and fight back against the mainstream and the mainstream alternative media narratives. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more on Patreon or Subscribestar or on X at World Alt Media, you will get exclusive content, including early access to a lot of our videos. And of course, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have a Bitcoin address that you could scan on the screen here and donate to, or check out in the description of our video in text form. So we appreciate that, as well as our Cointree link in the description with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. We appreciate that. We have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise where you can help support us by getting that merchandise and getting that message out on the street. And of course, you can find us on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson, and on the Bad Guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms where, of course, we are doing quite well, actually, except for on Spotify where we're banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, of course, hit that notification bell. Hit that subscribe button. Anything helps to keep us up and running, and you guys are the thing that's keeping the heartbeat going, so we appreciate it. As always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.